Thomson's gazelles are more behaviorally complex than one might expect. Tail flicks, ear movements, and body posture are all visual signals they use to communicate within the herd. A sudden flick of the tail or a raised head may alert others to the possibility of danger. Snorts, bleats, and alarm calls are the only forms of limited vocal communication. Their body language is refined, a language of motion learned and passed down through generations. In the early weeks, fawns and their mothers form close bonds and can be identified by their soft bleats and scent. Using this intimate form of recognition, mothers can locate their offspring even in the midst of large herds. Species like the Thomson's gazelle will either adapt to or suffer as the effects of climate change continue to affect the landscape of East Africa. The timing of migration and birth cycles can be affected by altered rainfall patterns, which can also alter the availability of grass. Food supplies can be reduced by droughts, making it more difficult for women to carry their pregnancies to term. Young gazelles' fitness can be negatively impacted by heat waves, and as animal ranges shift, new diseases may spread. Conservationists keep a close watch on Tommies not just because they are iconic, but because their health reflects the overall health of the ecosystem. In many ways, they serve as a gauge for the savanna. Gazelles have long held symbolic significance in folklore and culture. They are a symbol of beauty, swiftness, and grace throughout Africa and the Middle East. In Arabic poetry, lovers are often compared to gazelles, elusive, elegant, and enchanting. They have become symbols of femininity and agility due to their gentle demeanor and delicate build. But don't be fooled by their soft appearance. A tough survivor lies beneath, designed by nature to thrive in challenging environments. Tourists visiting the Serengeti or Masai Mara often overlook Thomson's gazelles in favor of the Big Five: lions, elephants, buffalo, leopards, and rhinos. But ask any wildlife photographer or guide, and they'll tell you, capturing a Tommy in mid-sprint or watching a herd of them grazing under golden sunlight is just as magical. The unadulterated aspects of African life that excite the soul include their speed, their movement, and even their vulnerability. Although witnessing a cheetah pursue a gazelle may appear to be a tragic scene in progress, this is actually the most honest and raw expression of life's cycle. Furthermore, the gazelle usually prevails. Thomson's gazelles demonstrate their distinctive adaptations even in captivity. Despite the fact that they are difficult to keep in zoos because of their high stress levels and need for large open spaces, some institutions have been able to successfully breed and display them. Observing them in such environments can provide valuable insights into their biology, breeding behavior, and dietary needs. However, nothing can compare to witnessing th. Ultimately, the Thomson's gazelle is a story of balance, a balance between fragility and strength, between being prey and surviving, between hiding and racing toward freedom. They are a testament to nature's engineering, to the delicate interplay between form and function. The Tommy shows us that being small doesn't mean you're weak, even in a world full of towering giraffes, charging elephants, and lions that are on the move. It can mean fast, focused, and fiercely determined. Their survival is not guaranteed. It never existed. But for as long as they sprint across the golden plains, bounding like wind-caught arrows and dancing between the shadows of danger, the Thomson's gazelle will continue to captivate and inspire. We can see the spirit of the savanna itself in their struggle and speed, wild, unrelenting, and stunningly alive. Thomson's gazelle's behavior changes subtly with the seasons. During the rainy season, grasses grow lush and abundant, leading to scattered herds as food becomes readily available across the plains. But in the dry season, food becomes scarcer and herds consolidate near water sources. This shift in distribution has ripple effects across the ecosystem. Predators like lions, cheetahs, and hyenas also shift their behavior accordingly, focusing their hunts on these clustered areas. Gazelle herds become more tightly knit during these times, and their communication and collective movement become more synchronized and crucial than ever. A single sudden movement, one raised head or flick of a tail, can trigger an entire herd to flee in unison. The concept of collective vigilance is crucial for the survival of Thomson's gazelles. A person reacts immediately to a threat, frequently before consciously processing what it sees. This reaction triggers a domino effect through the group. It's not about who saw the lion first, but how fast the herd collectively responds. This kind of instant, group-wide movement is a defense mechanism seen across prey species in open habitats. It demonstrates how even without formal leadership or verbal communication, prey animals develop systems that maximize their survival odds. It's interesting to note that not all predators hunt gazelles in the same manner. Cheetahs hunt by sight and speed, sprinting blindingly fast for less than a minute in pursuit of isolated individuals. Lions, on the other hand, prefer to move in groups and launch coordinated attacks, relying more on stealth and ambush. Hyenas often target the weak or injured with endurance and pack tactics. Each predator necessitates a unique survival strategy for gazelles. The behavioral toolkit they use is constantly put to the test, from sprinting to stotting, from zigzag running to sudden stops. Thomson's gazelles must compete with other herbivores for food in addition to predation. Wildebeests, zebras, topies, and impalas all share overlapping habitats. However, the Tommies' niche specialization enables it to graze selectively in. During the breeding season, males devote a lot of energy to maintaining their territories. These territories are not just marked with scent, they are defined by ritual behaviors. A territorial male may spend most of his day pacing, sniffing, and chasing off rivals. Even when a female is not present, he will perform courtship displays if he senses one nearby. The curious tongue-flicking motion, rapid circling, and grunting sounds are all part of these displays. He will be able to approach her more closely if she is receptive. She might run away if he doesn't stop her, forcing him to chase her across the plain as a fitness test. Females, meanwhile, are more focused on survival and the safety of their young. They are the herd's foundation in many ways, keeping the group together and passing on knowledge from generation to generation. In subsequent years, a female who has successfully raised a fawn may return to the same birthing location. These sites are chosen carefully. Locations with enough cover to hide a vulnerable newborn, but close enough to the herd for eventual reintegration. Even the act of giving birth is fraught with risk. Predators frequently follow birthing herds, and gazelles are particularly vulnerable during labor. A lioness or hyena may lie in wait, ready to snatch a newborn before it even stands. Females are always on guard because many births take place at dawn or dusk, when it is cooler outside. The first minutes of a fawn's life are a flurry of instincts: it must stand, it must walk, it must feed. These animals have evolved to be able to overcome obstacles to life from the moment they are born. Even though they are often thought to be quiet or delicate, gazelles have a surprising amount of chemical and vocal communication. They emit a range of sounds including low grunts, wheezing calls, and alarm snorts. But even more impressive is their use of scent. On their faces, they have preorbital glands that they use to identify the vegetation in their territory. This gland secretes a tarry substance with a distinct smell, allowing them to write their presence in scent. It's a primitive but effective form of territorial posting, one that speaks to rivals and potential mates alike. In the narrative of Africa's wild, Thomson's gazelles play a symbolic role in addition to their physical and behavioral characteristics. They are not the most photographed, most feared, or most well-known. Yet they are among the most numerous and resilient. For centuries, they have survived droughts, migrations, shifting predator populations, and now, the encroachment of humanity. They thrive where others struggle. They adapt quickly. They do so without much ado. Ecotourism has played a mixed role in their lives. On the one hand, safe habitats where Tommies can freely breed and graze have been established through the establishment of national parks and protected areas in Kenya and Tanzania. The presence of tourists deters poaching and provides. A herd of gazelles grazing peacefully with their heads lowered is a common sight on safari drives. One raises its head abruptly, twitching its ears. Another comes next. The entire herd then springs into action, leaping and bounding across the plain in synchronized evasion with almost balletic grace. No predator in sight, just the ever-present tension of life in the wild. The Thomson's gazelle's essence is captured in these fleeting, quiet, and powerful moments. In the twilight hours, when the sun dips low and the sky burns orange, the savanna comes alive in different hues. The air becomes cooler and the shadows get longer. The gazelle's body is illuminated by light and its coat glows in these golden moments. Everything slows down. Predators retreat. The wind calms down. The gazelles continue to nip, move, and watch in this peace. Always on guard. Always on guard. Continually surviving. Perhaps that's the final lesson the Thomson's gazelle teaches us. Not everything in nature roars. Not every survivor is fierce. Some simply endure. Some just run. And in doing so, they carve their story, not in stone or bone, but in fleeting hoofprints across an endless plain. Facts. One of the animals that embodies everything iconic about the African savanna, speed, grace, alertness, and survival, is the Thomson's gazelle. With its slender legs, large dark eyes, and elegant curves, it appears delicate, even dainty. But underneath that fragile exterior lies a highly specialized, evolutionarily fine-tuned survival machine. These gazelles have survived for centuries thanks to their adaptation to one of the harshest and most competitive ecosystems on Earth. The Thomson's gazelle is quietly one of Africa's most important and fascinating animals, despite not having the fame of lions or elephants. First things first, the name. The Thomson's gazelle gets its name from Scottish explorer Joseph Thomson, who documented a lot of East Africa in the 19th century. The animal that bears Thomson's name continues to be one of Kenya's and Tanzania's most well-known creatures, despite the fact that many people have lost track of his exploits and may no longer remember them. It's often affectionately referred to as the Tommy, and if you've ever seen footage of a cheetah sprinting across the Serengeti, there's a good chance the blur of tan and white in front of it was a fleeing Thomson's gazelle. The Thomson's gazelle's astonishing speed is one of its most remarkable characteristics. It is one of the fastest animals on the planet, reaching speeds of between 50 and 55 miles per hour. But what's even more impressive is its ability to maintain high speeds for longer distances. While a gazelle can outlast a cheetah in the long run, it may win a short sprint. That endurance often means the difference between life and death. What's more, gazelles don't just run in straight lines. They unpredictably zigzag, leap, and dart when threatened. Predators have a harder time catching them in the middle of a chase because of their erratic movement. Then there is the more unusual animal behavior known as stotting. Stotting is when a gazelle jumps vertically into the air with all 4 feet leaving the ground at once, also known as pronking. The rationale behind this is still a mystery to scientists. It could be a way to tell predators that the gazelle is healthy and not worth chasing, according to some theories. Others believe it might be a form of showing off or confusing attackers. It is a beautiful, almost poetic motion to observe, an animal suspended in midair, as if defying gravity for a brief moment, no matter the reason. The gazelle's body is built for its lifestyle. It's small, standing just about 2 to 3 feet at the shoulder and weighing between 30 and 60 pounds. Its light frame, paired with powerful muscles and long tendons, gives it a springy step. The coloration is also not just for beauty. Its distinctive black side stripe, reddish-brown back, and white belly help it blend in with the tall grasses of the savanna. Predators have a harder time focusing on a single herd member thanks to these visual tricks, especially during a siege. They are extremely social animals and typically live in herds of a few to several hundred individuals. These herds are not static, they shift, merge, and split depending on the season, food availability, and predator activity. Herds are more dispersed during the wet season, when grass is abundant. However, during dry spells, they congregate more tightly near safe grazing grounds and water sources. In larger herds, there's safety in numbers. Predators are less likely to succeed if they have more eyes and ears on alert. Within these herds, males and females play different roles. Especially during the breeding season, males are territorial. A mature male will establish and defend a small territory, often only a few acres, that he considers prime real estate. He'll mark it with scent from glands near his eyes and spend much of his time patrolling the borders, chasing off rivals, and trying to woo passing females. These males will often spar, lowering their heads and locking horns in short but intense battles. The winner gains access to any receptive females who wander through. On the other hand, females are more mobile and move ahead of the herd in terms of migration and movement. They're the decision makers when it comes to where to graze and when to move. When it's time to give birth, a pregnant female will often separate herself from the herd and find a quiet, hidden spot in the grass. She will give birth to a single fawn that is born prematurely, able to stand and walk in a matter of minutes. But unlike wildebeests, which quickly rejoin the herd, a gazelle mother will leave her newborn hidden for several days. She will nurse it a few times a day, but the fawn lies motionless most of the time, relying on its lack of scent and the grass for protection. The fawn is shielded from the numerous predators that inhabit the plains, including cheetahs, lions, leopards, hyenas, and jackals. However, the mortality rate for gazelle fawns is still extremely high. It's estimated that only about 1/3 survive to adulthood. However, those who do develop quickly and begin practicing the art of evasion, developing the instincts and reflexes necessary to survive in such a dangerous environment. Beyond speed and social structure, the Thomson's gazelle is a specialist when it comes to feeding. Although it prefers short grasses, it can browse on shrubs and herbs when necessary. It is primarily a grazer. Its narrow muzzle allows it to pick specific plant parts with precision. Unlike larger herbivores that tear through vegetation indiscriminately, the gazelle is selective, eating only the most nutritious tips of grass. This efficiency helps it survive in areas where food is scarce and competition is high. Additionally, their digestive systems are finely tuned. Like cows and other ruminants, gazelles chew cud. They have a 4-chambered stomach that helps break down tough plant material and extract as many nutrients as possible. This efficient This ability to tolerate arid conditions means they can inhabit areas that some of their competitors cannot, giving them an edge in certain landscapes. When it comes to predators, the gazelle's list of enemies is long. Cheetahs are perhaps the most well-known and most deadly. A cheetah's hunting style, stalking to within striking distance and then sprinting, is perfectly adapted to catching gazelles. However, many gazelles manage to outwit their pursuers and survive the initial sprint. Even the fastest cats are disoriented by their sudden stops, sharp turns, and jumps. Lions, although slower, are patient and cunning. They'll work together in prides, using ambush tactics to take down a gazelle. Hyenas rely more on endurance and pack cooperation. Leopards frequently hunt at night and prefer to strike from cover. Then there are jackals, servals, and even large birds of prey that can threaten young gazelles. To deal with this constant threat, the gazelle has developed an almost supernatural sense of awareness. Its eyes are large and placed on the sides of its head, giving it a wide field of vision. Without turning its head, it can see behind itself. It can pick up even the tiniest sounds like rustling grass or distant footsteps thanks to its extremely sensitive ears. Its sense of smell is also well developed, helping it detect predators and read the scent marks left by other gazelles. These animals are frequently featured in wildlife documentaries for good reason. The way they move is fascinating. There is something hypnotic about their presence, whether they are grazing peacefully under a golden African sunset or leaping across the savanna in great arcs. In order to get the perfect shot of a gazelle in midair with its hooves kicking up dust, muscles taut, and eyes wide and focused on the horizon, wildlife photographers frequently wait hours. The Thomson's gazelle is also a key player in the Great Migration, one of the most dramatic natural events on Earth. Every year, over 1 million wildebeests, hundreds of thousands of zebras, and tens of thousands of gazelles move across East Africa in search of fresh grazing grounds. The gazelles are among the first to arrive and the last to leave. Their small size and agility help them cross rivers and evade predators more easily than some of their larger companions. However, crocodile-infested waters, exhausting journeys, and constant hunting continue to present them with danger at every turn. In spite of their abundance, Thomson's gazelles are thought to be in danger in some areas. Climate change, agriculture, habitat loss, and fencing all put pressure on their populations. Gazelles are having a harder time getting access to food and water in areas where human development has blocked traditional migration routes. Their survival depends on conservation efforts like the creation of wildlife corridors and protected areas. Thomson's gazelles rarely live in captivity because of their high stress levels and need for open space. They are prone to injury when startled and do not do well in confined spaces. It is difficult to recreate the open, endless plains that are their natural habitat. However, they can be observed safely and respectfully in large reserves and sanctuaries, providing insight into their natural behavior. It is impossible to overstate their significance to the ecosystem. They help keep grasslands healthy as grazers by cutting back on vegetation and spreading seeds through their droppings. Predator behavior is influenced by their movements, which keeps the ecosystem dynamic and balanced. They also provide food for a wide range of carnivores, including birds and large cats, as prey. Even their inclusion in the culture of the area is significant. Gazelles are a symbol of elegance, intuition, and quick thinking in some East African traditions. Dances, tales, and even tribal totems feature them. They are revered for what they are, a masterclass in adaptation and movement, despite the fact that they lack the brute force of a lion or the mystery of a leopard. The Thomson's gazelle is more than just a quick animal in the end. It is an example of survival, a representation of nature's beauty, and a crucial component of the African wilderness's intricate fabric. Every second of a gazelle's life is a dance with danger, a testament to what it means to live wild, free, and fast. As day turns to night on the East African plains, golden light spills across the landscape and the Thomson's gazelle transforms into a moving silhouette against the setting sun. This is one of the most active times for the species, when the temperature drops just enough for them to graze more freely and move more confidently. Additionally, this is a time when the savanna's energy is changing. Cheetahs and other daytime predators begin to settle down, while leopards and hyenas, which hunt at night, draw attention. Additionally, the gazelle's senses are constantly on high alert in this transition zone between day and night. Thomson's gazelles are highly aware of the rhythms of the land and not just built to survive. Weather, herd behavior, and the presence of predators influence their activity patterns. For example, during the hotter parts of the day, they may rest in the shade or ruminate while lying down, chewing cud in calm cycles. However, they never completely relax, even when they appear to be. Their ears continue to twitch, their eyes continue to scan, and their legs, always prepared to sprint, remain under them. The cardiovascular system of the gazelle is an amazing feature of its biology. When they run at top speeds, their hearts beat up to 250 times per minute, pumping oxygen at incredible rates to support their sprinting muscles. Their lungs are large relative to body size, and their red blood cells are efficient at carrying oxygen. They are able to maintain that equilibrium between rapid acceleration and long-distance escape thanks to all of these features. Thomson's gazelles recover more quickly and can continue running if necessary, whereas cheetahs frequently overheat after a sprint and must rest for 15 to 30 minutes. Stamina frequently determines survival in the predator-prey foot race. Another remarkable quality? The talons of the gazelle. While they may seem small and dainty, those hooves are shaped for speed and traction. They provide grip and permit quick changes of direction on dry savanna dust or rocky terrain. A gazelle fleeing a lion is not only swift but also nimble. Its hooves enable it to pivot and leap in unpredictability, requiring its pursuers to re-evaluate every second. A Thomson's gazelle's black stripe on the side isn't just pretty, it also helps the herd coordinate and confuse predators. This stripe breaks up the body outline of many gazelles when they move together, making it harder for a predator that is chasing them to find and follow just one of them. The predator must focus on one target during a fast chase. But if a dozen gazelles are running in a tight group, all with stripes flashing and bodies turning, it becomes much harder for the attacker to make a clean kill. Their tail flicks are another important but subtle communication tool. A tail that flickers could be a sign of irritation, alertness, or readiness to run. When one gazelle begins to raise its head or flick its tail, other gazelles in the vicinity frequently do the same. These insignificant gestures are like animals whispering to each other, coded warnings that quickly spread throughout the group. Sometimes, a rustling bush is the cause of a false alarm. However, it is preferable to ignore a real threat than to run a few unnecessary yards. You'll start to notice Thomson's gazelle's social intelligence as you watch them for long enough. They are not simply timid grass eaters. They interact, bond, play, and learn. Young gazelles practice the skills they'll need to escape predators or compete for mates by engaging in gentle headbutting and mock chases. Nudges or soft grunts are used by mothers to gently discipline their offspring. In order to provide the younger members of the herd with greater security within the core of the group, older membi, space, distance, and a long view of the horizon are built into their design. They lose a lot of what makes them who they are through confinement. Around the age of 2, males begin to establish territories. Males do not all get to mate. In fact, only a minority will hold and defend a territory long enough to pass on their genes. There is a lot of competition. Males persistently parade, display, and defend their patches of ground. They engage in horn-to-horn combat that can be both elegant and brutal, release scent from their preorbital glands, and scrape the ground with their hooves. Although not always fatal, these fights are intense. In endurance and strength competitions, men push, twist, and slam into one another. The winner keeps his rights for the time being while the loser withdraws. Males are quick to pursue a female during estrus. Courtship is fast-paced and involves both scent tracking and visual cues. The male will approach, sniff the female's rear, and display a kind of prancing motion. If she's receptive, mating occurs quickly. Then, the female moves on, and the male returns to guarding his territory. Genetic diversity is maintained and inbreeding is prevented by this system of brief polygyny, in which males mate with multiple females passing through their territory. Thomson's gazelles are very much a breeder of the seasons, especially when it rains. The likelihood that mothers will receive sufficient nutrition to support lactation and that young fawns will have ample grazing once they begin weaning is increased when births are timed to coincide with fresh vegetation. This tactic emphasizes the gazelle's ability to adapt to environmental rhythms, which is one of its most powerful tools for survival. They ride the natural cycles rather than resist them. Naturally, predators are a constant force of evolution and pressure. Thomson's gazelles, on the other hand, do not live in fear. They adapt their lives to the threats. All of their sudden dashes, silent births, and constant scanning are part of a larger survival choreography. They don't panic. Their response is additionally, Thomson's gazelles engage in behaviors like dust bathing, which aids in parasite elimination and regulates body temperature. They hide under bushes on hot days, but if they can't find shade, they stand with their backs to the sun to protect their skin. Their light-colored coats reflect solar radiation, and they pant to lose heat. These adaptations may seem small, but in an environment where heat can kill, every little bit counts. One fact that surprises many people, Thomson's gazelles can jump nearly 10 feet in a single bound and leap over 2 meters high. This explosive vertical power can be used for more than just evasion. It can also be used to quickly get out of uneven terrain, jump over obstacles like gullies or shrubs, and reposition yourself during fights. Even when they are grazing, their powerful leg muscles are always ready to move. They have part. While they might not see fine detail, they are excellent at detecting motion, far better than humans. They will respond immediately to a flicker in the grass, a shape on the horizon, or the slight movement of an ear. This is why predators have evolved to be so stealthy. Gazelles give almost nothing away. They serve as the plain's eyes. Their contribution to soil health is one of the aspects of the Thomson's gazelle's life that receives the least amount of attention. As grazers, they trim vegetation that could otherwise overgrow and block sunlight for seedlings. Their hooves churn the soil slightly as they move, aerating it. And their droppings return nutrients to the earth, supporting future plant growth. This constant cycle of grazing and fertilization keeps the savanna ecosystem balanced. In contemporary conservation biology, Thomson's gazelles are studied as indicators of ecosystem health. Predator-prey dynamics, functioning water systems, and stable vegetation cycles are frequently indicated by a gazelle population that is either growing or stable. But when their numbers decline, it can indicate larger problems, illegal hunting, land fragmentation, or climate imbalance. The humble gazelle is, in that sense, not only surviving, but also conveying a message. The gazelle's life story has been better understood than ever before thanks to technology. Scientists can follow migration routes, monitor encounters with predators, and even observe herd decision-making in real time using collars with GPS tracking. A surprising finding? Each year, the routes taken by gazelles vary. Rainfall, grass growth, and human activity influence their adaptation. Their survival strategy relies heavily on their ability to pivot and change course when required by the circumstances. Thomson's gazelles maintain a relatively low profile in global conservation efforts despite their beauty and value to ecosystems. They don't get the same attention as rhinos or elephants. However, it's possible that's exactly what sets them apart. They are Africa's quiet strength in the story's background. The supporting characters who remain on stage forever. The flickers of movement that keep the savanna alive. Even in death, gazelles give back. Their bodies feed lions, vultures, hyenas, and beetles. The soil is nourished by their bones. Nothing is wasted in nature. A gazelle cycle is glorious, brief, vital, and unforgettable. In the hush of dawn, as the mists rise off the grasslands and birds begin to call, you'll find them there, heads down, grazing carefully, ears turning like radar dishes. They were flying across the golden plain like dancers with just one sound and one gust of wind. Not merely attempting to survive. Running because they were built for it. Because the savanna calls. Because speed is life and freedom is speed. And that is the magic of the Thomson's gazelle. Battle. Thomson's gazelle, whose name suggests gentleness and grace, carries much more than just beauty in its thin, athletic frame. The Thomson's gazelle, also known as Tommy, can be found in the vast grasslands of East Africa, particularly in Kenya and Tanzania. It is a creature with uncanny ferocity, lightning speed, and raw survival instincts. There will undoubtedly be comparisons when we enter the gazelle world. How does the Thomson's gazelle stack up against its fellow grazers, predators, and even members of its own species in the fierce battle for life, dominance, and territory? This article explores just that. Let's begin with the most iconic feature of the Thomson's gazelle, its speed. Thomsons are built like little race cars of the savanna. Topping out at speeds around 50 to 55 miles per hour, they're not just fast, they're among the fastest land animals in the world. In short bursts, their speed can rival even a cheetah's, although cheetahs have the edge when it comes to explosive acceleration. However, Thomsons compensate for this with agility. Their quick, unpredictable zigzagging movements are the real trick. They don't just run fast, they're elusive. It's like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. This speed becomes especially relevant when comparing the Thomson's gazelle to other gazelle species. For instance, the Grant's gazelle, which occupies the same territory, is a bit larger and more powerful than the Grant's gazelle, but it is not quite as quick or agile. The Grants may look more imposing, standing taller and weighing more, but in a race for survival, the lighter and more agile Thomson often comes out ahead, especially when dodging predators. The impala, another common antelope in the region, is more of a jumper than a sprinter. It can leap over bushes and escape threats through vertical bounds, but when it comes to raw land speed, the Thomson's gazelle often leaves it in the dust. Battles aren't always predator versus prey in the African savanna. Sometimes, the biggest threats come from within. Male Thomson's gazelles are well known for being territorial, and they fight hard for breeding rights. During mating season, testosterone pumps through their veins, and the battlefield becomes a dusty stretch of grassland. In a series of jarring headbutts and sharp twists, two males will square off, lowering their ringed horns and charging each other. These confrontations aren't just flashy, they're essential. Victory means control of a harem of females. Failure results in isolation and possibly no children. Interestingly, despite their delicate appearance, Thomson's gazelle males are incredibly durable fighters. Although they lack the size of kudu or wildebeest horns, their horns are razor-sharp and expertly used. The fights can sometimes last for hours, with gazelles circling, testing each other, lunging and retreating. Stamina and plan are just as important as strength in this dominating dance. Now, throw predators into the mix, and the comparisons get even more intense. The cheetah is perhaps the most well-known enemy of the Thomson's gazelle. These two animals have been locked in an evolutionary arms race for generations. The gazelle evolved to swerve, dodge, and spot danger earlier, while the cheetah evolved to run faster. While a cheetah can easily outrun a Tommy, the gazelle's unpredictable path frequently makes the kill far from certain. Cheetahs spend a lot of energy trying to outmaneuver a gazelle that is zigzagging in many documented chases, but they give up when the speed burst becomes unsustainable. However, it isn't just cheetahs. The Thomson's gazelle is seen as a potential meal by lions, leopards, hyenas, and wild dogs. Compared to a buffalo or zebra, the Tommy might seem like an easier target, but its small size is actually a defensive advantage. It's harder to spot in the grass, harder to catch, and harder to hold down. Lions stalk with patience and hyenas hunt in groups, but they rarely succeed unless they completely surprise a gazelle. The battle between predator and prey is a high-stakes chase in which a single mistake can result in death or a fortunate turn can ensure survival. Human impact is one of the most undervalued comparisons. In some parts of Africa, Thomson's gazelles face pressure not from tooth and claw but from habitat loss and human encroachment. When compared to larger or more iconic animals, elephants, lions, rhinos, the Tommy often gets overlooked. However, it is essential to the ecosystem. It helps to shape the savanna's rhythm, feeds a wide range of predators, and keeps grass levels in check as a grazer. In this quiet battle for ecological recognition, the gazelle often loses, simply because it doesn't roar or trumpet. However, the Thomson's gazelle persists despite all odds. Compared to other similarly sized herbivores, it's among the most successful in population numbers and geographic range. It has extremely finely tuned senses, quick breeding cycles, and strong instincts. A Tommy can detect a predator hundreds of yards away with a twitch of its ear or a flick of its tail. In this way, it outcompetes a lot of less aware animals, who are more likely to be ambushed. Interspecies comparison is also fascinating. Among the Thomson's gazelles themselves, personality and hierarchy come into play. Not all males are built equal. Some rise quickly through battles and territory takeovers. Others use sneakier strategies, shadowing the dominant males and trying to mate with females when the alpha isn't watching. It's a constant chess game, and sometimes brains win over brawn. The stakes in this internal struggle are evolutionary. Only the most cunning or strongest get to pass on their genes, which is why the modern Thomson's gazelle is so finely adapted to survival. The female character's responsibilities follow. Often overlooked in the narrative of animal combat, female Thomson's gazelles have their own battles to fight. They're constantly on the move, protecting their young, navigating dangerous migration routes, and choosing mates wisely. They may not clash horns like the males, but their decisions shape the next generation. Choosing a strong male can mean stronger offspring, better genes, and a higher chance of survival for their fawns. Speaking of fawns, they are born into a world where battle starts on day one. Within minutes of birth, a baby Thomson's gazelle must stand, walk, and hide from predators. Their camouflaged coats help, but only slightly. It's a case of survival of the fittest, and the fittest are the ones who learn quickly, stay still when danger is close by, and run like the wind when they are noticed. The Thomson's gazelle might not be the biggest, loudest, or most feared when compared to the African plains. But it is, without a doubt, one of the most finely tuned animals when it comes to the pure mechanics of survival. When put to the test, it is slick, strategic, and surprising fierce. So, the Thomson's gazelle is always fighting, whether it's for territory control, running away from hungry predators, or just staying alive in an ever-changing ecosystem. And more often than not, it wins, not through brute strength, but through speed, cunning, and instinct honed by generations of running on the razor's edge of survival. Myths. When most people think of myths, their minds drift toward dragons, unicorns, or stories of gods and monsters. But in the wild plains of East Africa, even animals like the Thomson's gazelle are surrounded by myths, some ancient, some modern, and all deeply fascinating. Despite being a small, fast antelope, the Thomson's gazelle carries with it a surprising load of folklore, misbeliefs, and cultural interpretations. From being seen as symbols of agility and purity to being misunderstood by tourists and locals alike, this graceful animal has found itself at the center of many myths. Let's investigate the Thomson's gazelle's world and discover the truth behind the legends. One of the most widespread myths about the Thomson's gazelle is that it is weak because of its small size and delicate frame. This couldn't be further from the truth. Although the Tommy, as it is affectionately known, may appear to be fragile in comparison to larger African mammals like wildebeests or zebras, it is actually one of the savanna's most resilient animals. It thrives in harsh environments, survives relentless predator attacks, and can maintain its speed and stamina for longer than many other antelope species. The idea that small equals weak is a misconception, especially in the animal kingdom, where agility, awareness, and speed often outweigh brute strength. Another common myth is that the Thomson's gazelle is just a prey animal with no role other than being food for predators like cheetahs, lions, and hyenas. While it is true that the Tommy is an essential source of food for many predators, limiting its identity to that of prey overlooks its essential ecosystem role. These gazelles assist in the control of vegetation, spread seeds, and serve as indicators of the environment. If gazelle numbers drop, it sends a warning sign that something in the food chain is off balance. They are a vital component of the African plains, not only because they are hunted, but also because their behavior shapes the land and supports other wildlife. In many African cultures, gazelles, including the Thomsons, are often linked with ideas of purity, swiftness, and spiritual guidance. They are regarded as omens or messengers by some tribes. According to one myth, the gazelle is a creature that can warn humans or other animals of danger and ward off evil before it strikes. These kinds of stories often stem from the gazelle's incredibly sharp senses. Thomsons have incredible vision and hearing. They are able to react in a split second to even the tiniest changes in their surroundings, movements, sounds, and vibrations. This sensitivity can appear almost supernatural to the human eye. Another rumor is that Thomson's gazelles are pacifists and do not fight. This image probably comes from their gentle appearance and graceful movement. But during the breeding season, male Thomsons are anything but peaceful. They become extremely competitive, territorial, and aggressive. In duels that can last for hours, males fight with their sharp, curved horns. In an effort to challenge one another for dominance and the right to mate, they push, lock horns, and push. Due to the gazelle's reputation as a passive animal, these clashes are intense and frequently underestimated. Another strange but persistent modern myth is that Thomson's gazelles die of heart attacks from fear when they are chased by predators. On nature shows, in tourist circles, and even on some educational platforms, this rumor has been spread. While it's true that stress from predator chases is intense, there is no solid scientific evidence showing that these gazelles drop dead from fright. Their bodies are built to withstand surges of adrenaline and escape attempts. In fact, they often recover quickly and resume grazing or regrouping with the herd after surviving a chase. Misunderstandings of footage of exhausted or injured gazelles collapsing after fleeing, which may appear to be a sudden death from fear but is typically the result of physical injuries or heat exhaustion, are likely the source of this myth. Some people make the mistake of thinking that all gazelles seen on safari are Thomson's gazelles, which leads to confusion regarding the species. While Thomsons are one of the most common gazelles in East Africa, they are not the only ones. Their close cousin, the Grant's gazelle, is often mistaken for a Tommy due to similar markings and behavior. Grants, on the other hand, are significantly larger, lack the dark side stripe on their flanks, and occupy slightly different ecological niches. Mistaking one for the other may seem minor, but it reflects a broader myth that all antelopes look and act the same. In fact, each species has its own characteristics, methods of survival, and place in the ecosystem. The myth that Thomson's gazelles always live in large herds is another. While they often do gather in groups for safety, it's not a universal rule. Males are frequently found alone or defending small territories during mating season. Herds may consist only of a few individuals at times. They may also split up into smaller groups or mix with other species like wild Thomsons know migration paths, remember predator hiding spots, and even recognize human threats. They have the ability to alter their behavior as a result of experience, which is a sign of learning, something that we typically associate with intelligence. Finally, there's a growing myth in some ecotourism circles that gazelles are not endangered, so they don't need protection. While it's true that the Thomson's gazelle is not currently considered endangered, that status can be deceiving. As a result of habitat destruction, poaching, and climate change, their populations are declining in numerous locations. Just because they are still commonly seen in certain parks doesn't mean they're safe. Assuming that common equals secure is a dangerous myth in wildlife conservation. In the end, the myths surrounding the Thomson's gazelle say more about us than about the animal itself. They show how we view beauty, intelligence, survival, and strength. The truth is, the Thomson's gazelle is a marvel of evolution, lightning fast, sharply aware, socially complex, and deeply embedded in the rhythms of the African savanna. Whether sprinting across the grasslands, fighting for territory, or guiding stories passed down through generations, the Tommy continues to inspire awe and curiosity. And maybe that's the most important truth about the myths: it's more than just an animal. It's a living legend in motion.